Hello everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey, and today I wanted to do a follow-up to my political trichotomy video that I did a few days ago. It's really interesting. If you look at the comments of that video, you're going to see just as many individualists telling me that I'm wrong, and that the alt-right, the nationalist right, and the communist left are the same, because total government is the far left and the absence of government is the far right, so individualists and capitalists are the only true right. And you'll see as many of those comments as those from the absolutist right telling me that, no, I'm wrong, because individual capitalism is the same as communism. So, like I said, it's a political trichotomy. I know that our brains are wired to think in terms of us versus them, a dichotomy. This is where we get our left versus right politics. But in reality, it's a trichotomy. We have the absolutist right, we have the individualist capitalist right, and then we have the communist left. And in a bygone age, there was religion instead of communism. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So if you haven't noticed, I got a bit of a facelift. And this is because I want to present something. So I know how the alt-right likes their memes and their God Emperor memes and so forth. So I want to propose something. So I showed you the political trichotomy graph before, but now I'm going to superimpose some Warhammer 40k stuff on it. And we're going to talk about it. So down in the lower absolutist right, you have the Space Marines. You have the Imperium of Man. This is pretty accurate if you know anything about Warhammer 40k. The Warhammer 40k Imperium is pretty much everything that the absolutist right wants. Then over on the communist side, you have the Tyranids, which are pretty much the ultimate expression of communism, where everybody's equal and equally disposable. And then up here at the top right, with the individualist capitalists, you have the Adeptus Mechanicus, also known as the Mechanicum. Not a lot of people know about the Adeptus Mechanicus or the Mechanicum, but they are part of the Imperium of Man, and yet they are allowed autonomy from most imperial bullcrap. And this is where I think we could find a template for an alliance between the absolutist right and the individualist capitalist right. Again, like I said in my previous video, trying to get both sides of the right to unite is not going to happen. To the individualist capitalist right, the absolutist right, and the communist left are indistinguishable. We see you both as terrible. We don't want to serve a king any more than we want to serve a communist dictator. You can both go play hide and go fuck yourselves. And of course, to the absolutist right, they don't see any difference between individualist capitalism and communism. They think one leads directly to the other. So let's just put that aside. Let's put aside the fact that we're never going to agree on everything and come together as one people. And let's instead focus on a treaty of Mars, if you will. So I'm going to read this from the Warhammer 40k wiki about the Treaty of Mars. So the Treaty of Mars, known as the Treaty of Olympus Mons to the Adeptus Mechanicus, is the formal name given to the binding agreements that regulate the coexistence of the Imperium of Man, and what was then the Mechanicum of Mars. Since before the start of the Great Crusade in the 30th millennium, to prevent a wasteful and costly war between the Imperium of Man that was forged on Terra in the wake of the Unification Wars, with the Techno-Empire that had evolved on the Red Planet during the Age of Strife, the Emperor of Mankind proposed a generous compromise that would cement the alliance and collaboration between both entities for the next 10 millennia. The Treaty of Mars granted political autonomy to the Mechanicum of Mars and its Forge Worlds, scattered across the galaxy, as well as an exception to the Imperial Truth, so that the cult Mechanicus' adherents could continue to practice their faith. The Imperium would provide 6 houses of navigators and astropaths to the Mechanicum, so they could unite its far-flung empire of lost Forge Worlds and continue its sacred quest for knowledge across the stars. In exchange, the Mechanicum would supply the Imperium of Man with the weapons, starships, material, and technicians required to initiate the Emperor's Great Crusade to reunite all of the human-settled galaxy beneath the banner of the Imperium. To symbolize the alliance created between Terra and Mars that marked the true birth of the new Imperium, the Emperor changed his personal sigil from one of a raptor and lightning bolt, the Raptor Imperialis, to the Aquila, a two-headed eagle whose heads represented the twin foundations of the new human interstellar government, Terra and Mars, Imperium and Mechanicum. End quote. So here we have the template for an alliance. What the individualist capitalists want is autonomy. What we offer in return is knowledge, technology, experience, and capital. So what does this look like in practice? Well, we have examples of this. They're called free trade zones. For example, you have China And then you have Hong Kong. Hong Kong is the freest country on earth, but it's basically a client state of China, which is an authoritarian, pseudo-communist, pretty much just fascist economy. So how can you have a pseudo-communist fascist economy in China and then have the freest country on earth in Hong Kong? It's basically a free trade zone client state. Kind of like the way Delaware is in the United States. It's basically a place where companies go and it generates revenue for the state and for the country. As long as there's autonomy for the individuals and the capitalists, we don't care. In fact, we recognize that on our own, individualism is kind of weak. There's a reason why these individualist societies need like the protection of a larger state. So China will obviously protect Hong Kong, and in return Hong Kong provides China with education, technology, and capital. So you can see this is a mutually beneficial relationship, and if China can figure this out, and if the Imperium of Man can figure this out, this is the template that I think will work. So if you want to bring back emperors and kings and monarchs and tribes and nationalism and all that stuff, great. We want autonomy. We want to be left the fuck alone, and in return, we will provide you with all the stuff you need as long as you leave us alone. That's the deal. I also quickly want to respond to one other thing. A lot of people say that I'm advocating elitism. Basically, elitism is the pejorative that the absolutist right and the communist left both share against the individualist capitalist right. So, yes, sure. If you're an individualist, obviously you don't need the collective. Why don't you need the collective? Probably because you're rich enough and smart enough that you don't need them and you see them as parasites trying to feed off your hard work and genius. And to the people at the bottom who want to feed off you, you're being a greedy elitist. And then to them, all of you look like a bunch of parasites trying to feed off of them. Never the twain shall meet. When the communist left goes, "You're a Nazi," and everyone just kind of laughs because they call everyone Nazis. Well, when the absolutist right and the communist left call individualists and capitalist elitists, it basically has the same effect. You're just announcing how dogmatic you are and how you don't see the mutual benefit between an alliance between the absolutist right, the Imperium of Man, and the individualist capitalist right, the Mechanicus. So just something to think about. Something to think about. I think we can have this. I think a Treaty of Mars would be in the best interests of both sides of the right in order to properly oppose the left. But that being said, it would also help if you toned down the elitism, degeneracy, and just kept your eye on the prize. We have a common enemy, let's work together. So something to think about. This is Turd Flinging Monkey, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.